This is a documentary photo essay of Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia. Wherever I go, I take pictures. I admit that sometimes my picture taking impedes my seeing because they're two different things. However, with the pictures I can then go home and see. This photo essay was taken at Eastern State Penitentiary. At the center of the circle you see here, there is one watchtower, but as the prison expanded, they built another central hub. And as you can see, they started out with 5 to 8 spokes for their wheel, but added more cell blocks in between, and eventually the space filled up. It's a tourist attraction well worth the trip. I want to thank the many people who have saved this historic site from destruction and volunteered their time. When I visited it in 2006, they had basically stabilized it and artists had begun doing artwork. This is one of the many alleyways between the spoke-like cell blocks. The layout of the prison is very confusing. As they added spokes to the wheel, the layout was additive. They just kept filling in space without an architectural plan. Some of the cell blocks are single-story, but the later ones are 2 and even 3 stories. There's no doubt about it, Eastern State is an unusually beautiful place. In this photo essay, I'm mainly paying attention to design in order to make evocative, emotional portraits of spaces. I think it's pretty clear that this could be a scary place if you were locked up in it. The light throughout this prison is like an artwork itself. Each cell block or spoke on the wheel has a different style according to when it was built. I think this is one of the older parts, single-story skylights, 19th century ironwork. The plan was to provide monk-like cells for contemplation. They believed that, this is from the internet, solitude will make the criminal regretful and penitent, hence the new word penitentiary. This is an original 1829 cell with a bed frame, toilet, and skylight. Here you can see the original stonework of the walls. Some furniture was left in some of the cells. Here is a stool and 2 nightstands. The whole point of images and art is that there are some things that words cannot explain. My own theory is that music is the most powerful art since we hear first in the womb. Visual art is the next most powerful because we see before we speak. Narrative or storytelling comes next. And last, literary art, as much as I love it, because it is the last learned. Sometimes shapes just present themselves to you, asking to be photographed. Some of the cell blocks had bars instead of doors, such as this one. The theory may have been to rehabilitate prisoners, but I'm not sure the lighting and contemplation worked when it was involuntary. This photo essay has a theme. I'm attempting to take the watcher from an outside view to an inside view, from freedom to captivity, from earth to hell. This photograph begins to show some of the eerie quality of the interior spaces. To me, today, it's beautiful, but then I can go home. I think if I had to look down that hall and see the door and know that I could never get out, my head would explode. This is the center of the essay, what they used to call subliminal messages in advertising, such as sexual innuendos, are actually very common all throughout art. Subliminal or subconscious, your mind grasps some things at a subconscious level that you're just not aware of consciously. And so you can say, yes, this is a picture of decaying architecture, but in reality your mind is taking in more than that. If you squint your eyes, you can sometimes see things that are not visible with details impeding your view. Like here you could see an arrow pointing down or the face of a devil. Now we present a change of path. Visually, I'm trying to offer a way out. Doors are symbolic. We all use symbolism whether we know it or not. Stairs are also symbolic, i.e. stairway to heaven, or in Freudian symbolism it's supposed to signify sex. This photo isn't in focus. I usually don't use photos that are not in focus, but this happens to be so beautiful I made an exception. The light was very, very low there, and this is with a handheld camera. The stairway is symbolic of a way out of this prison. Leading the eye is one of your goals. Here I am leading the eye by using the symbol of a staircase and also increasing lightness towards the top. I'm trying to make this photo essay into a story. Earlier, when I talked about which art came first and is more powerful, I didn't say they overlap, but they do. Narrative storytelling overlaps with both visual arts and music. It's in their combination that they're the strongest. They can become so powerful as to become hypnotic, such as in Hollywood movies. When I went up these stairs, there was no one else around, and I started to hear sounds of the prison. Prisoners banging on radiators, furnitures, and walls. The sounds swelled and increased, and I thought maybe I was hearing ghosts. Then I noticed wires leading up from the first floor to the second floor, winding in and out of the cells. Then I realized it was art. It's one of the best artworks I've ever seen or heard. It's called Pandemonium by audio artists Janet Cardiff and George Miller. This is a subliminal image also. It's a cross. This was probably the point of the skylights in the solitary confinement blocks. The light would tend to cast shadows that would often look like crosses. You can't see it when you're looking at the detail of the photo, but it's very clear in the thumbnail. The cross is made partially by light and shadow and partially by the stone in the wall. A window to the outdoors. Windows offer another way out. When the group of volunteers took over control of the prison in 2001, it had become overgrown with trees growing up out of the cracks between the buildings and on the roof. One way the volunteers have been so successful fundraising is that Eastern State is haunted. At least if any place should be haunted, it should. Such criminal luminaries as bank robber Willie Sutton and Al Capone were imprisoned there, some waiting on death row. I think I got at least one picture of a ghost here in the middle of the courtyard. It's either a ghost or a photographic artifact. I took the picture through a window, and that may have something to do with it. In keeping with my attempt to create a photo essay that leads the viewer in and then out, here is another image of out. It also provides the symbolism of a homey cottage on the outside, a desirable goal. Of course, it's just another part of the prison, but it looks good. Final picture in the photo essay, my signature.